Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Super excited for our webinar here today. We have one of my favorite topics to cover, which is cold emails and how to craft the perfect outbound message. And I've got some really awesome guests that we're going to introduce here in a second joining me from the Nextiva team. Super excited to have them on. They're incredible at outbound prospecting, so really excited to share their insights. But while I give a few people a few minutes to filter in, I'd like to first ask everyone to punch in where are you joining in from, where are you signing on from. We'd love to hear from you. And lastly, I would also like to bring your attention to something that we're working on for later this year. So we're actually working on our first ever state of prospecting survey. So you should see the link up on your screen right now. Go on that link, give us your honest, candid feedback, and we're actually going to be putting together that short survey to understand the challenges around go-to-market organizations, that they're specifically around the challenges that they're facing when building pipeline. Our goal is to be able to analyze and share the data and put together actionable strategies and insights from sales leaders to help you overcome these challenges and make buying experiences better for sellers and prospects alike. So if you're in sales, marketing, ops, or go-to-market, please take 10 minutes to share your insights with us by visiting leadiq.com/survey. By completing the survey, you're actually going to be entered for a chance to win either a $20 gift card or a $250 Amazon gift card. We're giving away roughly $1,500 worth of them. So super excited about this state of prospecting survey. Please give us your insight. We also have some really good resources that we wanted to share with the group here today as well. So you should see two blog posts of mine actually that I wrote specifically that are actually available in the doc section of the chat that can help you craft amazing cold emails. The first is going to be from our first Build My Pitch session, which focused more on different frameworks and email structures that you can use in your outreach. If you like to catch up on that session, you can visit leadiq.com/webinars to watch any of our webinars on demand. The other post is more focused on what we're going to be covering here today. So where are you going to start your sales prospecting research? And of course, how to use that research to personalize your messaging. So really excited to have our guests on here. So I'm going to give each one of our guests a couple minutes to introduce themselves. So why don't we start off with Allie? Allie, why don't you introduce yourself to our attendees?
Hi, everybody. My name is Allie Kaiser. I am the Senior Director of XDR, also known as SDR, BDR here at Nextiva. And I'm excited to be here today and provide some tips and tricks on cold outbounding and all things prospecting, our favorite thing.
Awesome. Welcome, Allie. Thank you so much for your time today and joining us. Next, I have Ariane. Ariane, why don't you take a second to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, guys. My name is Ariane Hatfield. I report directly to Allie, and I oversee the XDR team at Nextiva. And so when it comes down to prospecting, messaging, and really making sure that our message resonates with our target personas, that is where we excel. And so I'm very excited and thankful to be here today.
Awesome, Ariane. We're super excited to get your insights here today. And last but certainly not least, we have another Sean. Sean, why don't you take a second to introduce yourself as well?
Great, thanks. Hi, Sean Callahan-Dinish. Nice to meet everybody virtually. I also am one of the XDR leaders here at Nextiva, reporting into Allie, and I support our mid-market West team. So going after those customers and trying to find unique ways to get them excited about our Nextiva products and coming over and joining us. So excited to be here.
Awesome. And Sean has some really unique ways that he's coaching his team to be able to find insights to be able to personalize messaging. So really excited for him to share that. So before we jump into the content and the meat and the potatoes of today's session, I want to start off with a quick poll. So you should see a poll come up on your screen here, but how long do you spend on research before you actually reach out to a prospect? So on that first touch, everyone that's in attendance, would be awesome to hear from you. How much time are you spending? The options are less than 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, or more than 30 minutes. Perfect. We'll wait for some of those responses to come through. Oh, we're seeing a variety of different responses. So this is going to be interesting. We are super excited to share how you can streamline that research process, as well as some good tips and tricks to find account research and where to find that account research. So that's what we're going to start off with here today. So when we're thinking about outbound messaging, it's important to think about structure and frameworks, right? So I wanted to quickly pull up on the screen. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide right here because we actually covered this in our last session in depth. So if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about this framework, go check out our last Build My Pitch webinar. But take a screenshot. It's definitely something that I've used my entire career and seen a lot of success from. So next, I want to jump into the different layers of personalization. I think this is really important to understand. When you're thinking about personalization, not all personalization is created equally, right? So I like to break up personalization into 3 different buckets. We've got person, company, industry. Obviously, the best is going to be at the top with the person. So when you're thinking about the individual, you think about LinkedIn bios, social activity, news, blog posts, podcasts, events, past work / roles, shared experiences, connections, everything like that. And then when you're thinking about company, you're thinking about 10Ks, company news, strategic initiatives, business challenges, information from the website, podcasts, events, all of that jazz. And then lastly is going to be industry, where you're thinking about laws and regulations, competition, and industry news. So it's great to think about how to break down personalization. I'm really interested to hear from our panel here today. In terms of personalization, what do you guys feel like is the most important part of personalization? Do you need to hit that person level every single time? Allie, why don't you share your insights on that?
I would try to hit the person level every single time. I guess I'd ask everybody to think about, what do we all care about? We care about ourselves and what we're doing and how other people can help us accomplish our tasks in work and in our personal lives. So if you can connect to the person, I think that is the strongest and best way to try to develop and gain some attention and some responses from our prospects. But in lieu of that, right, we know sometimes we'll look and we'll do research on individuals and there's just not a lot to go off of, right? And we have to go and look at other things like company information and industry information and research to help us. But I always start at person level. What you'll find in a lot of my feedback today is that I am a leader that believes personalization at scale, and personalization will always trump. We have to be more than just a name in the inbox. We have to be a face, we have to be a voice, and we have to be someone that is genuinely curious and wants to help a prospect's business.
Yeah, Allie, you're exactly right. I mean, I think outreach is all about humanizing it, right? We're behind a computer, but if you can make that outreach sound more human and connect on a person-to-person level, you're going to see a higher response rate. You're going to see more pipeline generated. Where I see a lot of folks struggling is making that connection between the research and making it relevant, right? So, Sean, I'd love to hear from you in terms of like how you make the research that you find relevant to that person.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think depending, no matter whether it's personal, company, industry, it's tying it back to thinking about what their role is and what they're trying to accomplish, and then trying to come full circle with that. So if it's something personal, how you're driving that and help them personally. If it's about their company, it's how that can help the company get to that next stage, or maybe address challenges or pains, or maybe they went through an acquisition and they're going to be needing to explore something new, and how you can align your product or your service to that. And then same thing with the industry. I think about like last week, everybody knows about the CrowdStrike incident. So it's how can you incorporate that, because that affected millions of people. So how can you incorporate that into your personalization in your email and make it relevant and important to that prospect you're reaching out to?
Exactly. And I think you just touched on a really important point, and that's the timeliness of that research. It has to be something that's happening at that moment or in relative of that time space that you're reaching out to that specific prospect. You know, one thing just got brought up in the chat, Ariane, I'd love to get your feedback on this. It's quality versus quantity, and how do you balance that, with especially, a lot of organizations have BDRs on activity metrics. So how do you balance that quality versus quantity?
Yeah. So kind of piggybacking off of what Allie and Sean just shared, I think organization is going to be your number one priority here. And so when you're looking at your book of business as a whole, making sure that you're personalizing kind of based off of industries that you're going after and the personas that you're going to go after, right? If you understand what matters to your persona and understand what they're responsible for, then you can tie in a 10K report, public blog, public news into a relevant piece of message, right? Whether that's those first 2 or 3 lines within your email, the subject line, or attaching a relevant piece of content to the email.
Exactly. And I think you just brought up a really good point and a great transition into our next topic, and that's where to start your research, right? And the best thing you can do is have a clear understanding of your ICP. I think this is by far the most important part of messaging. If you don't understand who your customers are, what their challenges might be, how they might be doing things today, what their current state might be, you're going to really struggle to be able to craft relevant personalized messages, right? Because it's so important. So I want to pull up a poll here really quick. So you should have a firm understanding of your ideal customer profile before starting your account or prospect research. Do we agree with that or disagree?
Agreed.
I'm hoping everyone in here agrees with that. I think it's so important. And I think this is where, a lot of, BDR teams and organizations in general struggle is really honing in on that ICP and getting as focused as possible. And when you're casting a super wide net, it's very, very tough to make relevant personalized messaging, right? But when you get more focused and you have a more clear understanding of who you should be targeting, it makes it a lot more manageable to craft that message. So, Allie, you brought up a great point when we were chatting prior to this webinar. So talking through that ICP, what are some of the questions you ask yourself when you're prospecting into those accounts? When you're choosing how to build out your list and choosing who to add into a sequence or cadence?
Yeah, I think I'll take the assumption that everybody knows their ICP. We had 100% agreement on the poll, right? So knowing how you fit in and how your product and solution can help the company that you're targeting, we'll assume that we've got that checked off the box. I'm going to say Isaac has a really good point that I'm a huge fan of. So I love to see my reps start in Sales Nav. It is social media for the business professional, right? They are posting and bragging about themselves and their roles and their titles and their company. Start there. But one of my favorite things is go to the website, go to the careers page, look at the job descriptions that are on some of these careers. You're going to learn about naming conventions of these titles, who they report to and those naming conventions, what their responsibilities are. And then you can go do your advanced searching in LinkedIn or other tools like ZoomInfo, LeadIQ, whatever, to identify the people. We know that every industry, company titles are nuanced, right? So that gives you a little bit of breadcrumb trail to go figure out the right person to knock it out of the park. So that would be my 2 cents on just like a little tiny trick that can just absolutely knock it out of the park for you.
And then Allie, follow-up question, how much of your message should actually be personalized? How do you balance that? You talked about personalization at scale, right? So how do you achieve that?
You're finding your little nuggets. I sat down with my XDR team the other day. We talked about a couple different things. I'll pull back on my SDR days from a while ago. When I did those, I answered 10 to 20 minutes of research on the initial poll, but I'd look for 1 or 2 or 3 big lumps and rocks that I wanted to attach to in my overall outbound sequencing that I know that the company was interested. And then I would just tweak those and drop those and go back and look at those when I'm going to send my manual message number 2 or number 3 in a series, a cadence or a sequence, right? So I'd say use some of that information on the front end to make yourself more efficient on the back end, okay? Take your notes, guys, remember it. A good SDR, a good rep is in the weeds. They know their accounts, they know their people. You know, sometimes you get that sixth sense feeling of like, I found her and I'm going to get her. I'm going to get a meeting with them, right? And you think about that person. I can think back of names of people that I still would love to get meetings with from way back in the day. When we talk about percentage of personalization, again, using some of those efficiencies that Ariane talked about before, if it's a similar persona or a similar industry, so you can riff on that a little bit and you've got some meat to your content that's repeatable. You'll tweak a little bit of, tweak a little bit here and there, but the first 2 lines and the last line, right? Like your value props and how you present your solution or what you present can be fairly similar, right? If it's written correctly and it hits and it lands, but make me as the prospect know that you did research on me and you understand me. I want to know and feel special or different from you. And it doesn't have to be massive things, right? But separate yourself out. We've got a world of AI. People are here because they are in a prospecting role. AI is not going to replace the human connection and the human interaction. And so that's where that 20% comes in. And then that close, right? The CTA, the ask, that's a human. It's another way to be a human and ask for it versus like, hey, let me know when you're free. I'd love to chat, again.
Yep.
Make me feel special as the prospect. Tell me you did research, but it doesn't have to be my whole life biography.
Or what you had for breakfast. It can't be creepy either, right? Exactly. So it's so important, guys. That's what it's all about. It's about connections, and finding a way to connect with that prospect, and there's tons of different ways that you can do that, but looking for those connection points. I know Allie and team, you guys brought up, like maybe same, like following your company, or they went to the same school as you, stuff like that, where you can like form a connection with something in common with that person, right? There's a good question that got put up that I want to pose to the panel here. It is, do you attempt to personalize on each touch point to the prospect, or do you do that solely on the first message? I'm really intrigued to see responses. I think we're going to get different responses here. So Ariane, why don't you start off and give us your insight into this?
Yeah, I was actually reading Adam's question as you were pulling it up. And so I'm glad that you pulled it up. Adam, I think it really depends on how invested you are in your book of business and how much weight that account holds, right? So if this is your top creme de la creme account, you're probably going to spend a little bit more time getting to know the folks that have a seat at the decision-making table and what matters to them, right? And then really use your human approach to connect with them. So I would look at it as almost running 2 campaigns. You're going to have your target account campaigns that you're going to spend more time on. You're probably going to have maybe 1 or 2 pieces of automated content, perhaps a case study relevant to their business, perhaps a Gartner or Forrester report. But the rest, I really would double down on that personalization and kind of trickle that depending on their personas and their responsibility, right? Don't lose the human touch to try to get through the task. Double down on the human touch and manage your tasks. That's what I would say.
I love that. And I think when you think about your cadence, it should tell a story, right? You don't need to use all of your research in that first message, right? You can lay those breadcrumbs, so to speak, throughout your cadence, right? And I think that's so important. Really great insight there. Sean, I'd love to get your insight as well.
Yeah, pretty similar. I think it's, tiering out how important is this account to you? How important is it to, hopefully, if you're working with an AE, how important is it to you and your AE? And then really dedicating, the right amount of time and resources to it. Because I think a big part of this is time management. So it's being smart about your time throughout the day, leveraging those automated and automation tasks when you can, to save yourself a little bit of time. But if it's your number one priority, I'm going to put a lot more personalization into that than just, and it's too, like, it's maybe the title. So maybe there's more personalization for the more important decision makers at the company, and then a little bit more automation for some of those lower level people, or maybe you're just trying to get some intel or information that you then can work up the chain with.
Definitely. I totally agree. And I think that's a great point, for our attendees here, is learning how to bucket your prospects and how much time you should be spending. Like, let's just say you only have 15 to 20 accounts, you're going to be spending a lot more time digging into those 15 to 20 accounts. But if you have 9,000 accounts, it's going to look very, very, very different, right? Because I think account prioritization is one of the most challenging things as a BDR or SDR, right? So learning how to prioritize your time, because Sean's right, time management is one of the most important parts in sales in general, right? 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your effort, right? Pareto's law. So if you think about it like that, you got to know where to be spending that effort, right? So I want to jump into like what we leverage in terms of research. Before we jump in, we've got a ton of great pitches to go through here today. So I want to make sure we have time to go through all the pitches that we received, but want to talk through some of the resources that the team uses to personalize their messaging, right? So Sean, I'll let you start off in terms of what you brought up some really cool ideas in terms of how to find, relevant information you can use while prospecting.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think the most common ones are obviously like your LinkedIn sales nav and doing the company website, but getting kind of creative. So what I've had some reps do in the past are coming from like more of a tech space, leveraging things like Reddit and leveraging things like Discord and seeing what people are posting about competitors or what their experiences have been. And then another thing too is going back through some of your close one opportunities within maybe your region and seeing what were some of the notes on that close one and what were some of the pain points and why other people went with your customer and went with your company and with your products, because then you can loop those in, especially if it's in the same region, and you can bring that into your messaging and that personalization of, hey, I helped X, Y, and Z company. It looks like it's in a similar market as you. With our product, they really found a lot of value. Would you be open to a conversation to discuss how we can help your company? So those are some of the channels that I like to suggest to my teams and to reps to look into.
Absolutely. I loved hearing that. Last call, we also heard like using someone's Spotify playlist. Like there's so many unique ways you can go about finding this information for prospects and differentiating yourself and standing out, right? So Allie, I'd love to hear from you. What are your favorite resources to use in terms of account research and everything like that?
Oh my gosh, a lot. I had a gentleman, an enablement leader a long time ago, give a really great recommendation when I was prospecting into the upper mid-market and enterprise. Annual reports, well, not annual reports, I'll call it like 10Ks, all of that, great. It's a lot to sift through. Control find, guys, Control F and look for things, risk factors, things like that. But investor day presentations, they are geared towards the mass, right? The audience. It's not a heavy report, but it talks about strategic initiatives and what they're doing. It's a really cool resource to look for. And good old-fashioned Google. It doesn't have to be complicated. Look at your ands and your ors, your Boolean statements, your pluses, your quotes, things like that in Google searches. Set up reoccurring, news searches and keyword searches for things too, and just let it land in your inbox, OWL or things like that on a weekly basis to help support new things that are being posted. Because hey, if somebody posts a news article comes out, you did research on the account a week and a half ago, they're in the middle of a sequence, and then some announcement comes up, like it gives you something new to talk about. It gives you something new to change to that manual email that might be step 7 or 8 in your sequence, right? So, but anyway, Investor Day reports, really cool piece to look at outside of just good old-fashioned Google and some other resources. LinkedIn, I'll even call out like LinkedIn activities. Are they posting? Are they in community groups where they're asking questions? Never sell through a community group or a LinkedIn group, but is that can you find prospects that way? Can you understand your prospects better? We've got LinkedIn account IQ. It's a good call out, Anthony.
And I love that. Investor days. I've never used that before, but I'm definitely going to help my team leverage that now. I think that's a great resource. Ariane, how about you? What would you say are some of your favorite places to do account and prospect resources and research, and what are some of the resources that you leverage?
Yeah, so I try to keep it super simple, right? Our role can rapidly pull us in a million different directions, right? And so when I'm looking at a company, I'm going to kind of tie into what Allie and Sean shared, right? Kind of seeing how active they are in their social platforms, their professional platforms like LinkedIn. That's going to be a big one because that'll tell me how I can engage with them. But Google search, right? What was the most recent public blog that was posted about this company? Search company name, customer experience initiative, right? Company name, problem your company solves for this company, and look to see what those results look like. Another one, which I know 10Ks are kind of ugly and messy to go through, but a great thing about using human-led automation, right, is use ChatGPT, right? Throw in the 10K report, download it as a PDF, throw it into ChatGPT, have it summarize it based off of the risk that the company is facing and their goals. Learn how to prompt ChatGPT so you can get rapid results and help you tailor that messaging that's relevant to your target persona and your target companies.
Awesome. Ariane, I think that's a great point. I think, Allie, you touched on this a bit ago as well. You know, when you're a great seller, you're leveraging everything that's out there. So you're going to adopt AI and you're going to use AI and you're going to be even better, right? Where AI is going to fall flat is if you don't know how to do the research manually, if you don't know how to do the process manually, right? And you're just relying on it, you know? So it can either make you really good or it could really hurt you. So learn how to do this first manually, then add the automation and learn how to prompt and everything like that. So I love that. I think, you know, the best sellers are going to be the ones using and leveraging AI today.
I'll call out here real fast, like, just because I think it's so important. This is a hard, you know, function to do. It's hard to do research and correlate and extrapolate how you're going to help support them and make a connection. But if you can spend the time up front as a rep and an individual contributor doing it, and it's going to be painful, it's going to be time consuming, you might be a little inefficient, you might have to put a little extra time into your day, you will do it faster and easier every single time you do it. And you'll be a killer XDR, SDR, BDR for investing the time in up front. And then I'll just call out, like, I know my team's excited for it. They haven't seen it yet, but like LeadIQ Scribe, great ways to start emails conversations, right? Looking at some of those news and those articles to start the process, start the creativity process of outbounding.
Yep. And I have to now plug it because you just brought it up. So this is one of the most efficient ways I've ever seen to conduct account research and prospect research, right? There's a number of ways you can do it with LeadIQ. One is directly through the extension itself. We actually have the insights brought up. So a lot of the insights that our team has brought up here today are brought into our platform directly in the extension. So wherever you're working, you know, whether it's out of Outlook, Gmail, it's going to be there with you. So you've got all the research, because one of the things that I struggled with was conducting all this research and then leveraging it, right? Because I had all these docs. I had 50 account plan docs and my research was everywhere. This is really awesome. So it brings up all the news, podcasts, everything like that, actually summarizes the financial reports. So you don't even need to go to ChatGPT. This is where technology is going, right? It's providing it wherever you're working, so you don't have to leave your current workflow, right? So really awesome. There's a ton of great tools out there, but I had to, since Allie brought it up, plug LeadIQ for a second there. Awesome. So let's keep going. So I kind of want to just, since we're almost 30 minutes in, I want to get directly into our pitches, give our attendees some feedback. Let's take a look at some of the pitches that we received. So let's jump into it. So Diana, if you're here, we'd love to have you up on stage. if you're open to it, we're gonna read through this pitch here really quickly, and then I'm gonna have Allie give us some feedback on this specific pitch. So, hi Peter, I appreciate this is out of the blue and hope my approach is in order. As a quick intro, my name is Diana and I'm the primary resource dedicated to supporting Flutter Entertainment here at Rapid7. We work with a variety of different IT security teams to help them reduce risk exposure across networks, web applications, and cloud environments, as well as provide them visibility to detect and respond to attacks in their environment. Keen to speak about what's new with Rapid7 and understand any areas of security focus at Flutter Entertainment moving through Q3 and Q4. Are you open to connecting for a brief introductory conversation? Best regards, Diana. Allie, I'll pass it over to you. What's your feedback here?
If Diana's here, I'd love her to come on stage. I'd love to talk about it. But in absence of that, here's what I'd say. And I tend to be, I like radical candor, little Kim Scott in my life. Here's what I think about this email. I think it's a great email. Look, Diana, you're trying to introduce yourself. You can see that maybe there's a little hesitation. You're trying to be non-threatening and non-confrontational, right, with how you start your email. But what I would say is this. I'm calling out that this email is a little bit awkward and you're not expecting it, right? So I'm sussing out or flagging a potential objection right away. That's the first line that's going to be previewed, right, on a mobile device or on your email client. So how do you make that first line more, enticing for someone to say, yes, I'm going to open this email, right? The second thing that I'll call out is, I'll say the first 3 lines here are all about you and your company. It's out of the blue. Here's who I am. Here's what my company does. And I want to know that you did research on me, right? So help me understand how you're going to help me, that account research, right? That person research. Like, I could send this email probably to a handful of different folks. There's nothing that makes me as a CISO here any different than an IT leader or anything like that, or another company, right? Just plug and drop in another company. So again, talk about why I'm important to you. Make me feel special on that first and second line. That's where your personalization should come in. And then what I'll call out is what's your ideas? The best XDRs and SDRs are curious, right? And yes, you're asking a question here that you want to know about them, but I'm working with leaders like you, or I'm working with companies like this who are faced with these issues. I feel like you might be faced with these too, right? Add some credibility to the work that you're doing, and then ask a very specific or pointed question around a potential pain. Maybe I'm going to ask a question because people are lively in chat. CISO, how far in advance are they planning, guys? Are they talking about Q3 and Q4 in July, or where are their heads at? Are they 1 to 2 months, 3 months out? Or are they 6 to 12 months out? I'll put my answer in here shortly. So again, make it about the prospect. Add that personalization. Add your hypothesis, right? Going back to those emails and that research. I personally like 3 manual messages, 3 hypotheses within a sequence. You don't strike out if you strike out on the first one, you got strike number 2 and strike number 3 that might resonate a little bit better and might be a harder pain point for them. And then I like a little bit more direct call to actions at the end, rather than are you open to a call? Give somebody a decision to make. They have to make a decision. Are you open? That's a yes, no. How does this day or this day work? They feel there's a little bit of psychology in selling, right? So that's my feedback, a little long-winded. And my answer, since everybody's chiming in,
I think that was great. I think that was great.
The 12 months in advance, CIS.
And I agree with everything that you mentioned about this particular email, right? Like, no one cares who you are, right? Like, so you don't need to introduce yourself. They can read your signature, right? But more importantly, like, your email should answer, why are you reaching out now? Like, I don't see that here. It's just like, I'm just trying to reach out to you because I think there's value, right? And it's talking all about what the value that we can bring, but no challenges, right? So there really isn't any hypothesis here, like you're talking about, Allie, right? They're not hypothesizing what might be happening within the organization. There's no point of view as to what the challenges might be, right? You got to think, is someone going to invest in technology because they're going to get all of these value, or they're going to all of this value, or they're going to invest in technology because they need to solve a specific business problem, right? So you got to think about what's happening within the organization and the challenges that they're facing. So I would love to hear in the group, in the chat, really quick, what would you put for a subject line for this specific email? I would love to hear what the subject lines look like. And then I want to ask our panel, what would you put for this subject line? What would you put as a subject line for this email? Sean, give me your best.
Oh, that's tough. So what I like to do too with my subject lines, I like to try to pull something specifically from my research and then tag it in. So not knowing a ton about or who are we selling to? Peter. I think for me, it would be like a more of a value-based type of subject line here. So like what type of value we can bring to their specific company and that CISO type role as well.
Awesome. Exactly. I think it's tying it back. That's the first thing they're going to see. And Allie, you brought up a great point about the preview. That's so important. When you're scrolling through all your emails, that's the first thing you're going to see is the preview and then the subject line. That's really, really important with cold emails to at least get an open rate, right? Ariane, what would you say?
So without too much research on the account, my immediate thought is to pique interest by almost like by using their biggest competitor. And so maybe something punny, less than 4 words, maybe 3 words. I like to stick to like 3-4 word subject lines, really 3. Competitor name plus company name plus NPS scores, right? Or, I'd have to play around with the company and see what matters to the company and how they stack against maybe their competitor. And again, if you're looking through your phone or if you're, scrolling through your email, I think that competitor name comes out certainly when you see it right next to your company's name, right? Because as businesses, we all want to stay ahead of the competition and ahead of the curve. And so what do? We research what our neighbor is doing to make sure that we're doing it and we're doing it better. And so I think that's what I would tap into for this.
Love it. Love it. And then Allie, last but not least, what would you do?
I think I'll riff off of Sean and Ariane, right? Like, I want to make this personal, right? Like, I want somebody to know, or guys, we have personal email addresses. Like, you look at all those emails every single day. You know the ones that you click on and the ones that you don't, and you're scrolling through, right? But what I'll call out, and I'm looking at some of the chats here. Let's see, Mustafa, blue screen of death. Interesting. That's scary, right? Something happened. Maybe there's an issue. He's going to open it up, right? I'm not sure if I like all the lowercase, right? Entertainment industry, status, cybersecurity, very generic, long. Is there what's in it for me? We all know FOMO, problems, issues. What am I trying to solve for? Again, what do I care about? I'm a chief information security officer. I care about running my business. I care about the operational status of my business. And I think I saw another one. I liked it, but also Flutter security risk, or there was another one on here. It's is security an issue, security risk? Some of those, they shouldn't be. If he's doing his job really well, they shouldn't be issues, right? But FY25 planning, FY25, security, whatever, anyway, you get the point. About me, about what I care about, general, use that research, referrals, name drops, all of that stuff can be really powerful.
John,
100%. Yeah.
Kind of tying back to what we talked about with person, company, industry research. To me, when I think about this, a CISO right now, cybersecurity, huge. We had the event last Friday. My thing would be Flutter Entertainment, CrowdStrike exposure. You know what I mean? I think every CISO.
Boom. Yes, Sean. Yes. because that's bringing up something that every CISO is thinking about right now, right? I love that. And it's relevant, and specifically with this organization that they're reaching out to and what Rapid7 does. I love that. That's awesome. That was great. That was a snap moment for sure.
I did.
Perfect.
I snapped both. I did both.
Exactly. You took me by surprise there. That was great. Awesome. So let's move on to the next one here. I don't think we went through this one, but I believe, Ariane, this is the one you're going to take.
Yeah.
So let's jump into this one first, and then we'll go back and talk through the ones that, we will just give live feedback on as well. So, Ariane, let's talk through this. So we've got Adila here. Adila, if you can jump up on stage, we'd love to have you. We'd love to chat with you. We promise we don't bite, So we'd love to have you up on stage and give you direct feedback if you're open to it. But let's read through the email here. So it's smartly.io. We're targeting Diego. How do you say that account name? Anyone want to give that a shot? I'm terrible with pronunciations. Diageo. There we go. Diageo. Exactly. So digital marketing and creative leads. So here we go. Let's read it. Hi, Philippa. I hope you've been enjoying the summer. Smartly partnership with Heineken, Coca-Cola, Nestle, etc. makes me think that what we would do with these brands across social and Google channels would be relevant for Diego too. We help these brands to improve media efficiency and brand image through automating the creative media and intelligence end-to-end activities across Google and social channels. From video and display production, personalization, scaling, media setup, ads publishing, to creative optimization across Google and social channels are managed within one unified single platform. They use Smartly tool to automatically produce and personalize hundreds of creatives with very quick turnaround time. Relevant equals relevant creatives at scale that improves media performance. By unifying and automating end-to-end activities within one Smartly platform, we streamline the team's workflow. Improving equals improve team's efficiency. Smartly is now used by more than 500 advertisers globally, and we bring about 550 ROAS to our top advertisers based on this report independently done by PwC. Smartly has a global partnership with Denso as well. So please let me know if we should include Denso in this discussion. Looking forward to hearing from you. Mouthful, even for me to read right there.
That was
but Ariane,
my first question, Sean. My first question was going to be, one, do you feel like you really want to know about how her summer went? Two, how did it feel reading that email?
It was definitely tough. It's even harder to read.
Yeah.
That's what makes it tough, But yeah, I think it's a.
Yep. No. And so when I look at this, here's what I can appreciate about the email, right? That there are bullet points. Allie's like bullet point queen. She loves it. Why? Because they're easy on the eyes and they're a matter of fact and it's direct, right? Now, what I would say to, who is the person who wrote this? Adelia? Hi, Adelia. Am I saying it right? Okay.
Yeah,
what I would say
so.
is, one, it looks like you're trying to kind of multi-thread a few pieces that you could be stretching out throughout your sequence in one email, and it is felt, right? And so some of this is going to have to tie into relevancy in the body of your message. So I would simplify the email. I would remove, hope you're enjoying your summer, right? Like, let's make it relevant. Did this person go out on a big cruise trip and write a LinkedIn blog post about how great the customer experience was, right? Is this where we're going? Is this the personalization? So maybe double down there. And I get trying to leverage Heineken, Coca-Cola, and Nestle to pique interest, but some of it just doesn't align and isn't congruent within the body of the email, right? And so identify your triggers and your signals that you're going to use to personalize your message and learn how to trickle them throughout the sequence, right? So that they resonate. And of course, tie them back to why it matters to Philippa, who is what was the title of Philippa?
Digital creative lead and digital marketing and creative leads.
what do they care about, right? They care about brand strengthening. They care about making sure that the company is doing well from the top, middle, and bottom of the funnel. They want to make sure that their name is out there, that they have a good reputation, right? So maybe playing into what matters to the persona you're targeting versus a bunch of names and stats that might be kind of like a snippet plugged in on top of another one.
Absolutely. And I think that the most important piece there is like not shooting all your shots in one go, right? There's so much, this could be an entire sequence right here, you know, in terms of the customer references, telling that story, right? So it was a mouthful to read, but there's a lot of good that can be taken from this and be used in messaging throughout the sequence, right? So I love using social proof. I think social proof, let your customers do the talking, not you do the talking, right? So using that social proof is so important in messaging, both on the phone as well as email. Thank you, Ariane, for that feedback. And Adelia, thank you so much for sending this in. We appreciate you. We know how tough it is to put yourself out there and share your messaging with everyone and get feedback on it. So I also, one other thing I want to point out in here, you know, how do you guys feel about links in your emails?
Links on the first email or the second email?
Just in general. Just in general.
I have mixed feelings about it. I A/B test it all the time as a rep and as a leader. I've seen it work relatively
Some can
well.
get flagged. Some can get flagged and filtered.
That's what I'm thinking.
A/B test it. I think there's value, but again, try it, test it, see what works. Do they click? Do they not click? Does it
And
have a better
typically,
reply
like,
rate?
maybe the first email, no link, right? And then your reply email, your second email is personalized. It's a reply and it includes a relevant piece of content.
You know, I've seen a lot of messaging out there now, like that you provide the pain, value, everything like that. Can I share this relevant article with you? Asking if they're to generate a response, then you share the article. They're actually going to click the link and actually look into it, right? So I kind of like that as well. If you're going to be sending something that's going to take them away from their email provider, right? Is like letting them know why they need to click this link and asking for permission to send it. You know,
and I think like how you tie and leverage the link and the content, like I think JP's has a really good call out here. If you're going to put content in, there's two ways to like really do it effectively. In my personal opinion, I'm sure there's plenty more. Two came to the top of my mind, which is why I'm telling you two. One is on that voicemail that you're leaving, because you're not always getting in touch with somebody. I'm going to send you an email tomorrow with this piece of content, whatever it is, name content. I'd love for you to scroll down to page 2, paragraph 3. I think you're going to find it really interesting. That's telling the person exactly where you want them to scroll and look at. It's intriguing to the prospect. Like, what a second. What is Sean sending me? And what the heck is on page 2, paragraph 2? I'm going to go look for it in my inbox. I'm genuinely curious. The second piece is you can do that in your email too, right? Or take a snippet out, you know, copy and paste some text and then link the entire article. They can go click into it. I agree though, multiple CTAs is difficult and hard. Don't ask for the meeting if you're going to send a piece of content. And the final thing I'll say, because I just saw it in chat and I just love chatting, guys, is email number 2. Please tell me you guys are all sending a top of the inbox email on day number 2. Hey, I know things tend to get buried. Wanted to follow up on my note from yesterday. Please do it. It's got such a high response rate. You don't need 2 back-to-back heavy content emails. A follow-up on day 2, huge, overlooked often.
Exactly. And you've put all this effort into that first email. You want to direct them to that first email, right? So like, that's a great point there. Sean, sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're good. One last thing on like the link to be who that ICP is that you're reaching out to and what their role is. So like if I'm sending to an IT or a cyber, I'm probably not going to send them a link because they're automatically going to be suspicious. If I'm sending to sales, I think I might be a little bit more open because I feel like they're not going to be as cybersecurity heightened and focused and things like that.
Absolutely. It all depends on that ICP, right? That's very focused, making sure that it's relevant to that person, right? So let's jump in. Is this the one, Sean, that you want? This is the one. Okay, perfect. We're going to get feedback from our last panelist here, Sean. So we're going to jump into this, right? So subject line, Envoy's hiring on Oda. Marianne, Marion, if you're here, we would love to have you up on stage, and to give you some feedback. As you can tell, my pronunciations stink this entire time. Trying my best up here. But this is for Ada, the company. Target account is Envoy. Head of global people operations is the persona. Target prospect is Annie S. So, hi, Annie. Did you know Envoy made 3 great hires on Ada? Ada empowers businesses to receive 2.75 times more applications and can enable you to save between 6,000 to 30,000 pounds per hire. Our product offering will be changing soon, and we would love for you to keep this value. Would it be worth getting 15 minutes in the diary to ensure you are getting the most out of Ada?
Yeah. So the first thing that stood out to me was the length of this. I think it was good from hitting a couple of quick points and being really quick read for somebody that's head of global people and operations. They probably got a ton going on. Their inbox is filled. So if they do open it, you've got more likelihood of them reading through it. What I also like was they were tying that subject line and then the first thing that they put into this email were kind of tied together. I did like that aspect of it, but I would expand off of that 3 hires. So to me, it sounds like they're already using their product. So I wouldn't go so much of that second paragraph of Auto empowers business to receive 2.7 times more applications. I would drive off of more of, hey, how, if you increase your ADA, what that result's going to be for your business, and really focus on that 6,000 to 30,000 per hire. But I liked like that short sweetness. And then I would have tried to add a little bit more personalization specifically to ADA somewhere in this email too as well. It just seems a little bit kind of generic other than the 3 hires that Envoy's made. So those would be my key points to focus on.
Definitely. And if this is a customer account, we have a lot of really good information on them, right? Like,
Yep.
So from previous ops, closed won ops, like you talked about, Sean, so what are some of those things that you look for in like closed won ops, if you were to target a customer account?
Yeah. So if I'm looking at like a closed one, I'm looking initially like what were the problems and challenges they were trying to solve with our product and bring that up. So you've made 3 hires. Is that addressing the challenge or the pain point that you initially had? Also would look at like the length of time. So I'm guessing probably a year, 2 years. I'm guessing they're at some point of like a renewal. I'd also connect like internally, like, are they working with a customer success manager to help them leverage? Are they maybe having challenges with using the tool and getting that ROI? Those would be all things I think about trying to incorporate in this email.
Definitely. And I think one thing to be pointing out here is like trying to find some kind of like relevant research that you can use that's outside like some kind of point of view, right? Let's just say, Envoy, it has grown their team, by 10%. That would indicate a need to be hiring more folks, right? They're going to continue to hire. It seems like they're growing. Growth has increased significantly, right? So like leveraging that as to why am I reaching out now? Like why am I trying to get you to spend more now? Right? Like what is happening within the business? What is my point of view? I think that's one place where a lot of folks struggle, is really developing that point of view and hype what might be happening within the organization. Right.
Look, Sean, I'll call out here, like, I think, and both Sean squared, I'll call out here that I believe this is a free trial user or individuals using free trial accounts, and they are looking to upsell, and they're contacting the head of global people to say, hey, your team, somebody in your organization, or many people couple people in your organization have hired off of our platform. You guys should, consider doing business with us. What would be cool from a prospecting perspective, Marion, is go find those, like you're at Ada, right? So go find those 3 people, look at the job descriptions, go look to see who hired them or who are the user profiles, go reach out for some sentiment. How did you like using our platform? Was it helpful? What's the quality of the candidate, right? And then go embed those quotes in this email. Yeah. Embed one in the email.
I think that's so powerful. I mean, there's been a shift in terms of prospecting, right? It used to be top down, right? Like you start at the top, you start as CEO and work your way down. right? But now there's a shift from bottom up, right? You can do all the research in the world, but what's actually happening within the organization and what those reps, who the end user is actually feeling, is going to be way more impactful than any research that you can conduct.
Yeah.
So if you think about prospecting, if I'm a strategic seller, that's exactly how I'm going to be targeting my accounts. Is I'm going to go bottom up, learn everything I can, come up with a really solid point of view that I'm going to go target that VP with now. Right. So curious on your guys' thoughts with that, with bottom up versus top down.
In a very strategic account, learning from the bottom could be really helpful. It can be cumbersome and time consuming. So this is where automated emails, right, could be really powerful. I would say, how low are you going to go? And what value is the information that you're going to find? And that will help dictate what you do, how much you do it. But I'll actually use a real life example. I had somebody interviewing for an XDR position on my team at my last company, and they went and asked for meetings with my team and other people in our organization, right? To learn about what we're doing, all of that good stuff, right? There was some learning and stuff like tip me off, help me out, help me understand them. The same could be true for like prospecting, right? Too. Maybe that's not a great example, but a lot of individual contributors will take a meeting, right? Like they'll take a meeting and guess what? They love to spill their guts. They love to spill their guts. Glassdoor, if you want to go to Glassdoor and look at what employees are saying, like also another great, like people operations, like things like that. So again, use your sources, but the right companies at the right level of priority, if you find some of that information, and then I wouldn't call the people out that you're talking with directly, but say, hey, I've uncovered that this tends to be a theme. And guess what? We actually help with that, right? Like, how are you thinking about solving this for your organization, right? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm a fan of it. Right place, right time. Don't let it drain your bandwidth and impact your productivity for going high and getting those executive level meetings. So that's where pipeline comes from. That's where dollars come from.
Exactly. And when I think about, pain and the identification of pain within an organization, I think of like an onion, right? Like the further away you get from the individual contributor, the less they understand about the challenges that individual contributor has on a day-to-day basis. So for example, Allie, like, with your XDRs, you might not know everything that they're experiencing today, right? But high level, like what you're trying to drive from a business initiative, right? But where the pain really lies is the folks that are going to be using your tools, right? What are they experiencing today? What is the impact of what they're experiencing today? They'll tell you because they want a better way to do it, right? Versus a leader is more likely to hold their cards to their chest and not share all the information at once, right? So I think that's a great point that you bring up in terms of going out and finding information. I think when you think about sales, it's a human connection. What better way than to learn about a business from another human, right? So let's see, we've got 1 minute and 57 seconds left. Let's see if we can do one more quick feedback. This is a quick email that we'll go through really fast here from Noah. So we've got Noah. Noah, if you're up here, we would love for you to chime in. But from HubSpot, the target account is Visequate, and the leaders are in sales, marketing, growth, strategy. So here, let's jump into it. Hi, Shane. Congrats on your promotion with Blacked Out Company last month. Read that Blank has been positively setting itself apart in its ability to provide valuable insights for revenue cycle analytics. However, they've struggled to expand beyond small and mid-sized healthcare organizations. Curious if you're looking for ways to disrupt your growth strategy in the business services industry. Most ramping leaders I've been speaking with have been looking to reevaluate their current tools and processes in place, and curiosity has sparked around Gen AI tool solutions that support scaling efficiently. Are you looking to focus on innovation as a pillar of growth? If so, we would love to chat through how similar brands are leveraging HubSpot to disrupt the status quo. What do we think? Really quickly, feedback. I'm gonna let anyone speak out.
No, I like it. It's one of like clear, concise, to the point.
Great research.
Yeah, good research. I would say move your most ramping leaders.
Yep.
to the second line, right? Like you talk about the promotion, then you're going to talk about the fact that you know more about him going through his transition, and then talk about what the leaders that you know about that are going through these transitions are focused on.
Makes sense.
No, I love a lot about this email, right? The length of it, it's easy to read. You know, I love that you have some research attached to it as well. I think you could probably get rid, you know, of that middle sentence. To be honest, the curious, if you're looking for ways to disrupt your growth strategy in the business services industry, maybe tying that back, most ramping leaders, and then using social proof as to how other organizations you're working with are disrupting growth strategies in the service industry.
Yep. Nailed it.
Awesome. Any other feedback last minute? Noah, we appreciate you for coming up.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. We love HubSpot too. We love HubSpot too, you know? Awesome, guys. Well, we got 30 seconds here, but I hope everyone has a lovely day. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much to our panelists as well, and everyone that submitted pitches here today. Webinar recording will go out, but I hope you all have a lovely, lovely afternoon. Thank you so much.
Sponsor tracking in LeadIQ. Come on, this is a perfect
Yes,
example of where to use it.
Exactly. Contact tracking in LeadIQ, champion tracking in LeadIQ, best play by far to run. It's the one play that's worked, you know, throughout every industry I've been a part of. There's very rare that you'll find plays like that. So yes, use LeadIQ for that. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, team.